Hello, partners. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Welcome to the Modern Workplace Quarterly Update. Today is December 8th, 2017. I just want to do a quick sound check just to make sure you guys can hear me okay. With the Star Wars movie coming out next week, if you can answer in the message window who your favorite character is in the franchise, just to let me know that you can hear me okay. Nice. Okay, I see a couple answers coming in, so I'm going to assume that everyone can hear me. I would definitely have to say R2-D2 as well. So just quickly, the call is being recorded. So if you do not wish to be recorded, the call will be posted in the Yammer group shortly after the call. So feel free to drop if you do not want to be recorded. I want to welcome you to something we're trying out. We're actually doing a quarterly update call that will cover the three solution areas within Modern Workplace. So productivity, security, as well as Windows and devices. So with this being a new call, we do have some survey questions that will pop up after the call ends. So please stay on afterwards. We definitely want to get your feedback to make sure that we're providing something of value to you during this time. With that said, just to make everyone aware, I've been going through these slides on a few of the partner calls. We've created solution area technical communities for our partners, Modern Workplace, business applications, application infrastructure, data and AI, and then open source solutions. For us specifically within Modern Workplace, we're covering Office 365 and Voice, Windows and devices, as well as enterprise mobility and security. So when you see the Modern Workplace tagline, know that it's covering all three of those workloads. Now within One Communications Partner, or OCP, we're responsible for a few resources. These are the four major resources that we're providing for partners. We have some vanity links for those, but if you want to get upcoming partner training, this is for all the solution areas, aka.ms/hotsheetnews. Joining the technical Yammer community, that's aka.ms/MW partner community. And again, the slides will be posted to, the slides of the presentation will be posted to that Yammer community right after the call. We will be hosting monthly calls for each of the different workloads. So productivity will have its own monthly call, security will have its own monthly call, and then Windows and devices the same. However, the last month of the quarter will be following this format where we provide an update for all of those solutions within one call. But you can register for all those calls at aka.ms/US Modern Workplace call. And lastly, for all of the workloads, you can see our blogs at aka.ms/US blog. So with that, have a lot of updates for you, and I'll go ahead and get started by passing things on to Michael Pinceroli for the productivity update.
Great, thanks, Willie. Yeah, so this is the first one. There's a lot of information to try to pack into about 15 minutes, and so I'll get to everything. So this is for already a curated list, so I really encourage you to get the slides on these. I won't be able to touch on every individual item, but the first one on the next slide is really just kind of Office 365 all up. And what I first wanted to touch on was multi-geo. So there's been some announcements that have come around this, and what this does enables an Office 365 tenant to span multiple geographic regions, hence the name. So customers will be able to specify a geography on user objects in Azure Active Directory to determine the location of their OneDrive for Business and also their Exchange mailboxes. So I encourage you to check out that Ignite session link there for the details that are public at this time. It's currently in preview. So understand this is really more about data residency than it is about performance. So we're still finalizing these details, but think in terms of 10,000 seats per geo per tenant. And so the cost is going to be very significant. And we're targeting, because it's very expensive for us to implement this service. So we're targeting general availability of Q1 and CY18. If you're interested in this and be invited into the preview for one of your customers, you're going to need to be nominated by your PDM at Microsoft. So please contact them. And just a note, because I've been getting some questions around this, there's been a little bit of confusion. This is not to be confused with the Skype for Business regionally hosted meetings. That's rolling out now, and that's free. That's support for multinational corporations to have their users distributed across multiple data centers to be able to get better media quality and reduce latency. So just a note on that. Some updates in My Analytics that we have, some new trends, some new graphs. You can see that in the screenshot on the right. Best way to figure out what's new there is to go ahead and open up My Analytics yourself to see what's new. It's already there in the service. And then there's an IT roadmap tool for Office 365. So I think partners might be interested in this if you're doing some long-term planning with your customers around Microsoft 365. It gets into services for deployment, configuration, and management. This is really intended to be partner-led. So if you're familiar with those business value programs like the calculator and CIE, it's going to be integrated into those set of assets. So as you would expect, if you know about those, you can find them at transform.microsoft.com to check out some of those assets. And also there's a new Office 365 for iPad and iPhone, the November release. And so you're going to see some updates on inking to those devices. And we also have some improvements working with large Excel documents. The next set of topics we have is around, on the next slide, is around Office 365 usage reporting. So first up is some Microsoft Teams user activity report. There's information, it's kind of like two views where you can look at user activity and then also for app usage. So the user activity, you're going to be able to tell how many people are engaging in team chats, or communicating via private message. So you can see all those statistics around there and how many are participating in calls or meetings. And you can see that not only for the tenant level, but also for the individual level. And that usage report is information about how users are actually connecting, like with what client, and that includes the mobile apps. You can find that in the Admin Center and also in the Adoption Content Pack in Power BI, which leads us to our next bullet there, which is Office 365 usage analytics. So this is the artist currently known as the Office 365 Adoption Content Pack in Power BI, which was a long time coming, and then it finally got released. And so what we're doing is we're taking that in the beginning of 2018, that content pack is going to be renamed to Usage Analytics. And it's going to reach availability then, general availability then. And there's going to be an updated version that's going to include new metrics on teamwork, collaboration. You're going to get all kinds of usage data, and we'd include usage data from Microsoft Teams, which we just talked about. We're going to include that in the dashboard, and also from Yammer Groups, Office 365, and others. So that's coming then. The rest of the items are a little more kind of future, but it's good to be briefed on kind of what's happening, what's coming. And one of them is the usage score. That's going to give you insights on usage and it's going to be rolled out as sort of scenarios where you're going to get a score that'll determine like your maturity level for each one of those scenarios, so you can get an idea of how far along you are, or maybe if you're going to implement this as a service for your customers, how far along they are. So kind of similar to a secure score kind of situation, if you're familiar with that. where you can help them track that over time. And then also, I think interesting for partners is this advanced usage analytics. So what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to dynamically join data with complete user metadata from Azure Active Directory. So you can bring your own metadata. So say in a CSV file where you can enrich that data set with your organization's context or pull in line of business data. So as partners, you could stand up an end-to-end solution where you've got data extraction, leveraging Azure SQL, Azure Analysis Services, or Power BI reports, and kind of bring that together. And that, of course, can be made possible leveraging the Microsoft Graph reporting APIs, which I also noted there, which just reached general availability. Next up on the next slide is Office 365 security and compliance. It's a big area here, so we've enhanced the anti-phishing capabilities, and the work that we've done there was to be able to turn on those safe links protection for internal email. So let's say somebody compromised an account and they're sending phish emails from within the organization. We've got you covered there. And then we've expanded advanced threat protection to other workloads. So now it's expanded to SharePoint Online, OneDrive, Business on Microsoft, OneDrive for Business on Microsoft Teams are also protected by ATP. So imagine if somebody uploads a document to one of those properties with some malware in it, or even a link, you'll be able to see that now. So also we've gotten a lot of requests to remove the URL wrapping around safe links, and so we implemented that, and that's available today. We removed that wrapping so users can hover over that link and see exactly where it's going to. I know a lot of customers have been trained to look for that. And then moving on to Office 365 Threat Intelligence, that got released in the fall. So there's some new capabilities. We've added 3 new ones into Threat Intelligence. The attack simulator, there's a threat tracker, and a threat explorer. I'll just touch on that first one, the attack simulator. I saw this demonstrated yesterday. It's really cool. So the admins will have the ability to simulate different types of threat scenarios to gain an understanding of how your users would actually behave in the event of a real attack. And then you can evaluate how secure their configurations are. So like, for example, just one example of many different scenarios, you could do a password spray attack on your tenant and see how vulnerable you are. So pretty cool stuff there. More coming out soon. And let's see, we've got some updates to Advanced eDiscovery. This concerns non-Office 365 data that you can import for specific to a case. And it's going to be put in a special Azure container, and you can analyze it with Advanced eDiscovery. That's currently in preview. And if you're a compliance geek like I am, we've got some new advanced data governance feature called event-based retention. So what this will allow you to do to have events that are actually trigger a retention period. So probably a good example is like, let's say you want a retention period to kick in for a contract once the project completion date hits, right? So you can do more sophisticated things around compliance rather than just like the last created date or modified date. And so that'll include all those Office 365 properties as well. Customers have been asking this for as long as I can remember, going back 6 years. They've wanted customer keys, and we now reach general availability for that. So these are user or customer managed encryption keys in Office 365. And so that enables an organization to provide control over their own encryption keys, and they can encrypt their mailboxes and files in Office 365. In terms of what's new in Office 365 message encryption, we've just made it easier for the end user to be able to send those encrypted messages. I'm leveraging this now inside of my own Outlook client, where you can just, you create an email message, you can go up and just mark something as confidential, and it's going to automatically encrypt that behind the scenes. So no longer is it kind of locked up in exchange transport rules, but you can now do that right from within inside the client. We've also improved the experience of the end user experience and be able to accept that across different platforms. So go ahead and read that URL link in the bottom there that really covers, it was really a great summary of all these security and compliance updates that we've made post Ignite. So check that out. And also one other note, for those of you who try to access the Office 365 Security Compliance Center with PowerShell, you can now do that with MFA. That's actually supported now in that case. Okay, so on the next slide is Office 365 Security Compliance Continued, and I just made its own slide because I think this is really important. So the Compliance Manager, it's a new compliance solution that we have that helps you manage your compliance posture. So you might have heard that language like with Secure Score and ASM around your security posture, and this is very similar to that tool, but it really deals with your compliance. And so there's similar things in there to Secure Score if you're familiar with that. So there's built-in automated controls. There's audit-ready reporting to help you improve and monitor your compliance. So if you're interested in GDPR or you have customers that need to be ISO certified, this tool will help you get a handle on that, help you manage that, and even like a workflow to be able to assign certain regulation pieces out to be able to fulfill that to different people in the organization. So check it out. You can do that right on your own demo tenant. It does say sign up for the preview program, but all that's going to do is bring you to the Service and Trust Center. You're going to click on an agreement, and you're going to get right into it. So go ahead and check that out. Okay, so moving on to Skype for Business. Again, I don't have time to really go through every one of these. Maybe I'll just call out that first one. Encourage you to get the slide deck on this. But we have a Skype for Business modern authentication with Exchange Online. That configuration is now in public preview. So this applies to your customers who have a hybrid configuration that includes Skype for Business and Skype for Business Online and also Exchange Online. And that's going to enable them to be able to now use modern authentication, features like MFA and certificate-based authentication, conditional access, and multiple application management capabilities. So this is for users that are homed on-prem as well as those that are homed in the cloud. So if you have customers that fall into that scenario, that's an important update to be mindful of. Okay, so again, I don't have time to go through all these. I need to keep moving on to Microsoft Teams. And this is incredibly overwhelming to try to actually capture all of the updates because there is so much new. So what I'm going to do is kind of break this down and say, if you're a partner, and let's say you're just kind of saying, all right, geez, I see Microsoft Teams is now ready for prime time. I need to spin up on this myself. I highlight those top two resources there. So first one is the blog article, which is New Vision for Intelligent Communications in Office 365. And go check out the Ignite session. The Microsoft 365, Transform Your Communications with Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business. In my view, those are the best two resources to really kind of get the latest on what's been happening with Microsoft Teams now that it's really becoming prime time. For you other partners that are really on that journey and are really working with your customers to figure out, okay, they're in that transition for Skype for Business to Microsoft Teams, and when will they be ready? When will it satisfy their own requirements? I just wanted to highlight this, the Skype to Teams roadmap, and that's a PDF which I'll show you over the next few slides. But that is a great PDF download with that vanity URL where you can really get a terrific roadmap and a summary of all those features, and they break down into the messaging roadmap, the meetings roadmap, and the roadmap for calling right in there. So that's a great source for you to be aware of and to leverage in your conversations with your customers to see where things are at and if it's going to work for them and when. And also, if you check out the Office 365 roadmap, in addition to that, which is that bottom link, if you haven't noticed, they actually now include estimated release dates. So that's very helpful. They didn't include that before. Microsoft employees would get those estimated release date in a special email. Well, now we're making that public. So you could filter on Microsoft Teams, and there's an unbelievable amount of new things that are coming out in the coming months. And so just too much to mention. So Willie, if you could just maybe just scroll through the next 3 slides, you can get a flavor of this. And this is, you'll see this on the PDF, and that's the same URL up top. Again, broken down by meetings and calling and messaging. So check out that important resource. And then I'm out of time here, but let me just have you, if you're interested in Teams development, if you want to get going on developer extensions for Teams, or what you can do with the tabs and inside of a Teams application, I put together some resources for you so you can get started with those. It also calls out PowerShell support for Microsoft Teams, which is fairly new. And I also referenced some training that's coming out. There's 2 U.S. dates, and this is the Tech Summit on Microsoft Teams. So this is training for IT, and there's also developer training in there as well. And so I left that link in for you. And then my final update is there's been some new things in collaboration, and maybe check out those, some of the new for developers. They'll be interested in the new file handler updates. The 2.0 version gives you additional scenarios for SharePoint Online and OneDrive for Business, and you can leverage the Microsoft Graph API. It allows you to get more robust access to files. So it includes things like metadata and permissions and sharing. So you could leverage those in a way that you weren't able to do before. And you can also add some custom actions buttons and launch your file handler add-in with custom text and icons. And then we also have some updates to shared calendars. So this is improvements where your shared calendars were synced to your mobile phones. So you can read about that in that URL. And we've also added a shared with me. We've improved that shared with me view. When you go to OneDrive, shared with me, now you're able to filter on things like file metadata, and you're able to sort, so a better experience there. And we've also added SharePoint mobile notifications for SharePoint mobile apps. So if you're building intranets that leverage new articles and news, and it'll tap into the Microsoft Graph, and those will actually show up now as notifications in your tray. And you can, when if it's something, a site that you actually care about, or one of your colleagues or coworkers, and it'll launch that SharePoint app and bring you there. So check those out. And then also finally, if you're interested in all the updates that have been happening within the SharePoint framework, if you're a partner that's building on that, and what's been happening with the patterns and practices, I did an entire call on that last month, and so I refer you to that call to see what's all new there. All right, thanks, Willie. And if there are questions, I'll go ahead and knock those out in the Q&A window, so I'll do that offline.
Sure, thanks, Michael. There is one question in there around Office 365 ATP.
Okay, great.
So moving on to the security update, I want to pass things over to Edward Walton for that.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay, Willie?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, go ahead and advance the slide for me. Thanks.
Sure.
Wow, a lot of updates coming out of 365, right? And collaboration. So I am Edward Walton. I am part of the Modern Workplace team with a focus on security and compliance. And so I'd like to give not quite as many updates as Michael gave in regards to the updates that are coming out of the security arena for EMS, which is Enterprise Mobility and Security. So we're going to keep this very high level and talk about some of the main things that I've talked about within some of my partner briefings and questions that have seemed to have repeated themselves, right, or been asked of me. So starting off, we're going to talk about Advanced Threat Analytics, version 1.8, with a soon-to-be released 9 in the coming quarter. For those who don't know, Advanced Threat Analytics is Microsoft's behavioral anomaly analysis and detection. A lot of it was built around post-breach activities where you are seeing attempts to own the domain or escalate domain, enterprise, or schema-level administrative rights of a user account, or perform risky or out-of-band behavior as related to credentials. So some of the new updates around Advanced Threat Analytics are it is now available in the cloud. In its previous renditions, ATA was only available for deployment on-premise in a few deployment models, but now it has a new name and it has the ability to be deployed in Azure and be powered by Azure, and we'll talk about that in the bottom portion of the information. Advanced Threat Analytics now supports single sign-on. It used to be that when you connected to the console to be able to administrate and receive monitoring alerts, it was a separate sign-on from your domain credentials or your Azure Active Directory login credentials. Now, ATA now supports single sign-on for the administrators. ATA was a console-only informational portal that did not have a strong reporting module. ATA now has a reporting module so that you can create technical, executive, and summary reporting for any type of regulatory requirements and or reporting to executive staff, technical staff, or just quarterly reports or auditing. So there is now a reporting module built into it. The service accounts. ATA runs its services based on service accounts that you set up. Those service accounts were and had to be internal accounts, but now service accounts can connect externally. So you can have accounts that can be provisioned in a hybrid deployment model between your AD and Azure Active Directory, AD or Azure Active Directory accounts exclusively. So now service accounts have the ability to exist external to your infrastructure if you have some type of MSP, MSSP, or CSP need and have a catch-all or an Exchange clearinghouse account. Sorry, not Exchange Mail, but just in a clearinghouse account that manages multiple ATA instances. And now there seems to be a typo there where it says suspicious P. Well, that should be suspicious IP. So now Advanced Threat Analytics can now monitor activities that you deem are coming from suspicious IP addresses, not just internal to your infrastructure where it's deployed. So if you have a group or you have intelligence from other security products and you have a range of suspicious IP addresses, you can load those in there. And if it sees any type of activity originating from those IP addresses, whether they be internal to your infrastructure, just off campus, or external routable IP addresses, you can monitor that now. So those are the top things that have been deployed or are available inside Advanced Threat Analytics. Let's move on to part two. So the evolution of ATA, or Advanced Threat Analytics, has now morphed into Azure Active Directory Advanced Threat Protection, which is ATA in Azure. And so now it is Azure-based and Azure hosted and Azure powered. You're now able to monitor credential anomalies inside your Azure Active Directory infrastructure. That is also going to be extended out for B2B, B2C, and also you're going to start looking at federated. So you're able to monitor activity that is native to your default domain or vanity domain, as well as any other type of collaboration you may have with external directory connectors. So you'll be able to do that inside AATP. And that's a mouthful, Azure Active Directory Advanced Threat Protection. It's also able to detect advanced on-premise and cloud. So anything that can mimic suspicious behavior where you have been, you believe that you have a compromised identity in the cloud and it is trying to execute something on-premise via your hybrid configuration, or going the other way. If you have it deployed on-premise and it detects that someone is trying to run some type of enumeration or attack against your Azure Active Directory infrastructure. So that's planned for GA in the next quarter, right? So you can detect advanced attacks on both sides of any deployment you may have if it's trying to compromise either side. It also supports investigation experience for Windows Defender ATP. and that's a big thing. So it's a part of your holistic landscape for security, threat, actionable intelligence, and actionable insights. One of the things is being able to understand whether I have a compromised Windows 10 device and can I pull in telemetry from Windows Advanced Threat Protection. Yes, you can. So what it does, it will look at failed login attempts, and it will correlate that into a report that says this looks like someone's either doing a brute force attack or someone's doing some type of password guess attack or any anomaly that's being pulled in from Advanced Threat Protection. So advanced, one second here. There you go. So Willie, this is Edward. Did you restart the slide over?
Sorry, Edward, I had some issues with the slides there. Yeah, I had some issues with the slides, so sorry about that.
Hey, no problem. And so you jumped directly into my slide. So we talked about investigation experience connecting Azure Active Directory Advanced Threat Protection to Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. So that huge Microsoft security graph, that telemetry, all of this is now being fed into a repository where they can pivot off each other for actionable insights and actionable intelligence. Next slide, sir. So let's talk about Intune. Top big things with Intune. Mobile application management without mobile device management is now available for Windows 10. So now you can have your applications, sanctioned company applications, managed without having to enroll your Windows 10 device inside of Intune. That was not available previously. That feature is in mobile devices traditionally, where you could have mobile application management within your traditional cell phone, tablet, without actually having your device managed by Intune, which is a physical separation versus the abstract, the security and software abstract. So that is now available in Intune. Teams, mobile application management and mobile application management with conditional access support is now in Intune. So if your infrastructure or your customer is now using Teams and they're embedding application widgets, application functionality, and things inside of their team site, now Intune can do mobile application management by enforcing secure browser, office levels, and application minimal versions inside of Teams. You can also do that with conditional access, meaning that if you have an application and you want to enforce MFA for that particular application, you can do that. So that's now supported inside Intune. Conditional access, big thing. Conditional access for Mac OS is now supported in Intune with MDM managed machines in preview. That is going to be coming out in the next quarter. What that means is this is not iOS. This is Mac OS on the more traditional laptop typical devices supplied by Apple. So now you're able to do conditional access for Mac OS and be able to do that from an MDM managed machine. So being able to manage the Mac OS devices, as well as now being able to require certain conditions be met before the device can gain access to your digital resources. So those are the top things inside Intune for this quarter and going into next quarter. Next item, Azure Active Directory. Conditional access, we see a theme here, right? Conditional access support for Microsoft Cloud App Security. So now you're able to pivot conditional access as well as in-session access if you have Cloud App Security integrated into your infrastructure. And so Cloud App Security can see that if someone is logging on, but they're trying to use or do something as far as SaaS applications, mobile applications, or data transfer between storage accounts, for example, it can now say, if you are not logged in or you're not logged in this particular role or credentials, do not allow to transfer or report on someone trying to use a SaaS application, sanctioned or unsanctioned. The requirement is P2 level of Azure Active Directory, as well as being entitled to use Microsoft Cloud App Security, which is the E5 subscription inside EMS, or E5 inside Microsoft 365. And that is part of the core IAM feature set by combining those two together. Conditional access via Azure Active Directory in combination with Cloud App Security. Number two, multi-factor authentication server admin experience. So MFA can be run from Azure, and MFA still exists on premise. You are now able to manage and have the experience of managing your MFA server on premise via Azure Active Directory, being able to see it inside the Azure portal for identity protection. So that goes around to that single pane of glass, that if I still have a hybrid deployment and resources both in Azure as well as still on premise, do I have to manage two different portals? They're trying to narrow that convergence and those concentric circles down to make them overlapping. So that's a big thing, now not having to jump in between two separate management portals to be able to manage your multi-factor authentication workloads and your deployment. Really big for some administrators being able to do that until they can either fully transition away from on-premise and go into MFA in Azure. And another thing around data governance, approval workflows for privileged identity management data governance. So with the ongoing regulatory requirements around GDPR, data governance, monitoring access, and being able to look at administrative roles and rights, there are now workflows inside Azure Active Directory that when someone needs to either gain access to digital assets, have to perform certain work functions, and they require permissions, you can create a workflow scenario where they can get the proper approval to either have their credentials elevated, to allow them to do their job, and de-elevated once that particular role set or that process is done or that workload is completed. So you don't have to have spot person approval. You can have a continuous workflow. So now that you have a seamless or two or three person control, meaning more than one person is in the authoritative chain to enable someone to be able to gain access or have their privileges modified to do their job. Right. Next slide, sir. And the next slide, sir. Azure Information Protection, or AIP. Azure Information Protection Scanner is the big thing. The AIP scanner has been released, and so if you want to scan data repositories to see whether they have protected documents, digital assets, the AIP scanner will go in and make sure that those digital assets, those documents, that data repository is meeting the requirements by scanning to see if there are any documents on Windows File Server, NFS shares, or SharePoint. So this is a method to go in and validate whether your controls are still in place and if you have a mixture of non-protected documents and digital assets versus protected. So very popular tool that came out, the Azure Information Protection Scanner, being able to scan at-rest documents and digital assets to see if they are protected, not protected, or do you have a blend of those, and should you have those particular assets separated in some logical or regulatory fashion. Create protected Word, PowerPoint, and Excel documents in iOS. So now the ability to continue to use the Office Suite for iOS on your phone and be able to create those documents on the fly with your mobile device on iOS is now supported. Traditionally, that wasn't there, but for those that are still using iPhones, iPads, and they're doing work inside Microsoft workloads related to Office, you can now create those protected documents using AIP natively on iOS. Number 3, labeling based protection and cloud, Microsoft Cloud app security. AIP has a huge and growing amount of interaction with Microsoft Cloud app security, so that when MCAS is looking for any digital transformation or digital transfer of documents that are protected by AIP, such as moving something from SharePoint to OneDrive or OneDrive to Dropbox or Box, AIP can leverage Cloud App Security to notify and alert the security administrator that a protected document now is trying to be transversed in an unsanctioned manner, and you can label that protection on the fly if that document or if the person is entitled to do that. So if someone's getting ready to move a document, there are processes now to label that document classified, unclassified, secret, or whatever labeling you may have on the fly, and Cloud App Security can give you advice on how to do that based on AIP information. Or if you see that information being transferred and it is breaking a policy. So greater information tie-ins between AIP as well as MCAS, so Azure Information Protection and Microsoft Cloud App Security. Speaking of Cloud App Security, they're right next to each other. They play they play together well, and they seem to always be in the same deployment framework. It supports installing the collector on Docker. So those that are familiar with cloud app security who want to do continuous log correlation, gathering, and governance are familiar with deploying it in a VM manner, either on Hyper-V or VMware. That is a specialized Ubuntu distro that you install on premise that takes firewall logs and then it transfers it to your cloud app security subscription/tenant. Traditionally, it was deployed in VMware, but now it supports installing the collector, the log collector, in Docker. So that is a big thing for quick spin up and tear down of the virtual machine for MCAS. Very big. Install it on Docker, and you can also install it in Azure. So if you want to install the collector for MCAS, it no longer has to be exclusively on premise. It can also be inside your Azure subscription and your traditional IaaS deployment, being able to install that on Docker, or you can continue to install it on Hyper-V or VMware. Right? Unique integration with Azure AD conditional access for controlling and limiting access to cloud applications. So now Microsoft Cloud Access has the ability to operate as a limited reverse proxy, being able to leverage conditional access in session, so that if you have a series of controls that suddenly become more restrictive, the conditional access says that to continue to use that workflow or that work process, the person now has to meet certain conditional access requirements. You can create a policy on the fly, and those who are not affected by it, once the conditional access goes in, that particular session now has to meet those credentials, where it be from safe IP addresses to MFA to certain revisions. Those are not going to be enforced in cloud app security. And a reverse proxy, and then being able to stop or limit that session so the individual or entities can no longer perform that workload without meeting the new conditions, right? So it's an in-session reverse proxy of sorts, and cloud app security can see that now. For instance, you're transferring a file. The file was initially classified as confidential only. It suddenly became secret. Now you have to have conditional access, leverage it MFA to continue to use that file. That reverse proxy can see that, limit that until the conditions are met. Right? Azure Connect. Microsoft Cloud App Security natively ingest information about your 365 subscription/tenant, about the information of your users, the applications, the usage patterns. There has not always been a connected ability to easily see what is going on for governance and monitoring inside Skype, Yammer, and Power BI, and Dynamics. So now there are Microsoft Cloud connectors for Skype for Business, Yammer, BI, and Dynamics. So that same data governance and the ability for you to share digital assets in Skype can no longer, they're not excluded from being inspected. So if someone is trying to drop and drag a file in the IM window inside Skype for Business, Cloud App Security can see that. If someone is trying to share files within their Yammer group that may have some type of protection on it or it's not sanctioned, it can see that. If someone is doing a Power BI session and it gives them access to information and our documentation, Cloud App Security can see that. And of course, as powerful as Dynamics is, being able to store customer information, workflow information, ERP stuff, any digital access, that powerful tool from Microsoft and that the ability to aggregate and correlate and house data can now be looked at and inspected and be reported on by Microsoft Cloud App Security. So that's very, very big, being able to see those line of business applications and being able to have insight on what's going on with those. Next slide, sir.
I think that's it, Edward.
Oh, I'm missing one there. So my apologies. I had a summary slide that was similar to what Michael had. It had all the links. I'll get the slide that modified. Oh, okay. Should be two more. The next biggest thing is enterprise mobility and security, the ability to use it within your government three-letter agencies. So now we're looking at the services and what the offer is for commercial and government cloud and the newest compliance around FedRAMP and FISMA. So now you'll see that Azure Active Directory P1 and P2 is now being offered for government, and it also has FedRAMP. It is in audit, and the expectation is that the end of the calendar year this year, you're now able to deploy these workloads in very strict and regulated government entities around Azure AD P1 and P2, Azure Information Protection P1 and P2, Intune, and Microsoft Cloud App Security. So all of these are in auditing, and as soon as they pass auditing, these are now being available to be deployed within government entities or government opportunities. And so we're looking at end of calendar year this year. As far as the Cloud App Security, they're doing an Azure onboarding and they're fast tracking it, and the availability to do that within government is to be determined, but I can't, I don't expect it will be much longer behind the other ones that are in front of it. They're all part of the same EMS workloads, and I suspect when those come through, it'll most likely pass auditing, and then they will be available also. Next slide, sir.
That's the last one.
Okay. My apologies, there should be a summary slide with all this information as well as other information about the improvements inside the workloads for EMS. I'll get that updated slide to the moderators so that when it's published available for partners, you guys will have that and be able to click on the links for more information, as well as get additional information about features and functionalities that are being offered inside the Microsoft Security offering feature function and for EMS.
All right, cool. Thanks, Edward. I appreciate that update. Definitely a lot of information. As we transition to Windows and devices, there is one question I do want to ask. We have installed and configured ATA on premises. Will we need to migrate to the cloud version? And what are the advantages to migrate to cloud?
You do not have to migrate to the cloud version. They can run simultaneously. There are some differentiators in the deployment methodologies that are having lightweight gateways. I think the terms are now being called sensors. So you can run a hybrid configuration between both, and they're interoperable. Okay, they are not able to be managed from the same console at this time. That is coming. All right, so you're going to see a conversion having both of them. So, and you don't lose any functionality, or you don't have a monitoring gap by having them separated. So you don't have to do it. ATA on-premise is still supported, and there are still numerous releases on the roadmap. So it won't be deprecated or depreciated in the short term. And the advantages of running it in the cloud is that you can run the the center, the console, and the gateways in Azure, and don't have to worry about deploying virtual machines and or physical machines to be able to do it. If you have traditional workloads in IaaS, such as domain controllers, and you're not using Azure Active Directory domain services, this allows you to be able to monitor those credentials and that access to your domain controllers that you've deployed in the VM manner in the cloud. And since ATA in the cloud is much closer to your IaaS resources, you don't have to transfer it to your hybrid connection to be able to get insight to that. So you're protected on both sides. And if you only want to deploy it in the cloud, there are connectors to be able to backhaul it to your on-premise environment to also see the activity of your on-premise domain controllers as well as your domain controllers in your Azure IaaS deployment.
Okay, cool. All right, that's all the questions that came in. Thanks again, Edward. We'll transition to Windows now, and before I do that, we are running a little bit behind schedule, but please do stay on after the call ends so that there'll be like 4 quick survey questions that'll pop up, and if you could just quickly answer those just to give us feedback on this new format, that would be really helpful for us. With that, I'll turn it over to Siobhan for the Windows update.
Yep. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay.
Awesome. Waiting for the slides to come through. Have you advanced, Willie?
I did. Yes, it should be on the blog one. Windows
okay.
Blog.
I know it's not here on Skype, but so if it's on the welcome page. So for our Windows announcements, great place to always start is our Windows blog website. So would always recommend going to that website and checking out the blog, which is blogs.windows.com/business. So if you advance to the next one, we'll kind of dive into some of those top blog posts and kind of some top updates we have. So first, where I would like to start is some of the Microsoft partners extends Windows Defender ATP across platforms. So this is the first thing I like to talk about in reference to ATP. Organizations often use computers, OSs, and databases from a variety of vendors. But with Microsoft partners, Bitdefender, Lookout, and Ziften, we have extended Windows Defender ATP to detect, protect, and respond to security threats on macOS, Linux, iOS, and Android devices. Windows Defender ATP provides security teams a single pane of glass for their endpoint security, and now by collaborating with these partners, so our customers can extend their ATP service to their entire install base. Bitdefender, Lookout, and Ziften are the first of several strategic partnerships coming for Windows Defender ATP as we continuously expand and innovate with the goal of giving security teams better ways to detect, investigate, and respond to cyber attacks and breaches on their networks. Our integration with Bitdefender is available now actually in public review. So to learn more, you can kind of get started on the trial version and look at their FAQ page on their site. Lookout and Ziften will be joining our public review program with their integrated solution soon. So for more details, you want to visit their websites and register for trial versions. The second one here is around the M365 security and management features. So it's a great post about the top 10 security and management features in the Fall Creators Update. So including but not limited to Autopilot. So it's a new cloud service that makes it possible for any PC to be enterprise ready with a simple self-service out-of-box user experience that IT can personalize for their organization and eliminate the need for IT to re-image, touch, or even manually provision Windows 10. Windows Defender Application Guard is also new. This makes Microsoft Edge the most secure browser for enterprise by hardware isolating the browser away from your apps and your data and your network and even Windows itself. So completely just separates and isolates it. And then Windows Defender ATP, which now provides, like I said, mentioned earlier, single pane of glass view across the Windows Preventative Protection Security Stack. The new Security Analytics dashboard provides recommendations to improve your security posture. So in addition, a set of new APIs give you an intuitive access to pull data or perform responsive actions. We're also helping our enterprise customers with new tools and resources to aid deployments, servicing, and compliance. We shared new GDPR resources to help our customers accelerate around those compliances with details on security features and capabilities built into Windows 10. We've added device health to the Windows Analytics suite to help reduce support costs by proactively identifying and remediating top employee impacting device issues. We've also provided enterprise customers with a new diagnostic setting specifically to enable Windows Analytics to provide critical business insights for the maintenance of their device ecosystem. So it's a ton of packed information in there. Feel free to dive in there. And last but not least, Windows 10s devices for first-line workers. We've announced this newly for commercial devices with Windows 10s for our first-line workers. So these devices are simple to use, they're streamlined for security, and they're easy to manage. All right. So I know I quickly ran through that, but you can definitely get more information by going onto the blog site and diving a little deeper. If you go to the next one, I have the last thing is, let me glance here. To cap off on some of those, the last 3 months we've announced ATP will include automated investigation and remediation capabilities later this year, so kind of really close to that time. So this takes enterprise security to a new level, enabling our customers to move faster from device, data, and insight to action against modern-day threats. Following the recent acquisition of Hexadite, a leader in security automation, we have successfully integrated Hexadite's innovative security automation technology into Windows Defender ATP, which helps us enable ATP customers to leverage state-of-the-art AI technology to solve their alert volume challenges by letting ATP automatically investigate alerts, apply artificial intelligence to determine whether a threat is real, and to determine what action to take, going from alert to remediation in minutes at scale. So with this addition, ATP now covers the end-to-end threat lifecycle from detection to investigation and response automatically. So if you want to try, there's a 90-day trial that's available. So if you want to get into the Defender ATP today, I would recommend that. So that's all I have for Windows, and I'll just quickly go through some of our Surface updates. So we can go through to the next slide.
Yeah, and there seems to be an issue with the slides right now. For some reason, it's updating on my end, but not through the Event Builder app. But the slides will be available as well as the recording, so we'll be able to match them up once we look through it at the end.
Okay, no worries. So I'll just briefly go over some things. So I work the Surface area. We have a couple of holiday promos that are here until the end of the year. Quickly, for our new Surface Pro, you can get up to $200 off of select SKUs. So I would take really good advantage of that. Also on our Surface Book, we have up to $500 off of select SKUs. So please go take advantage of those. Also, to let you know, our new Surface Book 2 has come out. Just some highlights on that. We have faster resume time more than ever. It's up to 17 hours of battery life. It's still compatible with all accessories, and we're excited to bring USB-C to the first device within the Surface family. So that's exciting, and for any sellers that may be on the phone, Dill Reg is actually 5% versus 3% like we have on our other devices. So I would take high advantage of that. We have a new 15-inch that's come out with our Surface Book 2. It's the most powerful device. With a 15-inch, you can get up to a terabyte of storage and 16 gig RAM. So that just lets you know, like, this is really a powerhouse with 8th gen Intel Quad i7s. And then we also have LTE on our new Pro device. Yes, LTE via a eSIM. It's very secure eSIM, so you can activate it on any carrier just via SIM card, just kind of like sometimes you do with some of your phones. You just kind of put a SIM card in and it's activated. So it is on our new Pro device. It's exactly the same device, but we now have the ability with LTE embedded in it with an eSIM chip. So those are some of the high-level device updates with Surface. When you get the deck, you'll see some of the price points around LTE, Surface Book, as well as our entire matrix, which allows you to see from price point from lowest to highest, and then from power capability from a SKU perspective. You can see exactly all the array of options we offer across the board for all persona and work styles. All right, Willie, I know that was really quickly, and I know lack of deck ability, but we'll get the deck out, and yeah, that's those updates we have for Windows and devices.
Oh, cool. I appreciate you for condensing it into the short time frame. We did have one question come in. I'll go ahead and ask that. ATP, the automated remediation, how will partners be sure to know when they can see that functionality?
It should be available in the new creators update, so it should be available now.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you, Michael, Edward, and Siobhan. I really appreciate you providing the updates for this past quarter. Again, for those still on the call, if you can just stay on for a quick second after I end the call and complete 4 quick questions, we really appreciate it, and it'll really help us determine how to move forward as far as the formatting of the calls. So really appreciate your time today. Our next call will be in January, so happy holidays to everyone, and we'll see you in the next year. All right. Thanks again.